So with that, let me just pause and sorry for the long opening monologue this morning, and we'll just open it up to some questions and what you'd like to hear more about.
The House passed three of their tax cut bills. The Speaker authored those three bills. There's three options. Do you think the Senate should pass all of those, or one of them? What's your view on those different tax offerings?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of them. Two of them are fairly similar, but so they should pass one of those, and it's really just a path to zero. So I think that's what the House wants, to get Oklahoma back on a path to zero. And basically the premise is, which I totally agree with, when you have excess revenue, you automatically trigger a tax cut, okay? Makes perfect sense. When you have excess revenue, let's trigger a tax cut. We've collected more revenue that we need, so let's not create more government programs. Let's give that back to the taxpayers, which in turn doesn't disappear. That's what people don't understand. The money does not disappear. The money just stays in your pockets and not the government's pockets to use and spend how you think is important for your families. And that actually spends in the economy and will actually turn into more revenue for the state. So you're business friendly, so we're going to be encouraging business growth. McCall's bill has, I think, a path to zero on the corporate side of income tax. Corporate income tax is a very small part of what we gather in the state of Oklahoma. We don't have tons of corporations here, but we want to be the most business-friendly state. I would love to be the business capital of the world. That's why I'm promoting my business courts, lower taxes, reducing regulation, having certainty for businesses. And so I'd love to see those two things passed. The other thing it does is it raises and does away with some of the smaller brackets underneath. What that does is it literally gives an absolute tax cut for every single Oklahoman, but it removes taxes from the very poorest Oklahomans. So everybody under $27,500 in income filing jointly has to pay taxes in Oklahoma right now, okay? And it's a graduated scale when you look at it, and so that just eliminates all that. And so it's a great tax cut for working families, the working folks on the lower income bracket, which you know me on the grocery tax. That's why I love that. It was a regressive tax, and I'd love to get those across the finish line.
The Senate was here quite late last night. A little bit of filibustering there from Senator Dahm. What did you make of that? Knowing that some of the bills from the Senate were not heard in time for that deadline.
Yeah, as a regular Oklahoman, before I got into politics, I wasn't a politician, as everybody knows. I still don't think of myself as a politician. I just kind of call it like I see it and explain to Oklahomans. I thought it's kind of weird to pass 75 bills in one day anyway. I guess that's how the process works. But, Senator Dahm he's duly elected by his district. He is actually also the chairman of the GOP. And so it's my understanding that he was trying to make a point and read all those bills and slow down the process a little bit, which I guess is based on the parliamentary rules inside the Senate. He has the right to do. I don't really understand the caucus politics and how all that works. Passing 62 bills versus 75 bills is fine with me. I think 75 were on the docket. They actually got 62. I think there's way too much government. I don't think we need all of this extra government. Every year we come in and there's 4,000 new bills filed. I think that's weird. I think most Oklahomans think that's weird. I'll tell you who it does upset is the lobbyists, because if they don't get their bills passed, then they don't get paid by their clients. And first thing I did when I became governor is I banned state agencies from hiring lobbyists. So it's just a weird system, and Oklahomans need to understand that the way this system works is big industries or businesses or special interests hire lobbyists, come in and get their bills and passed, and it shouldn't be that way. And so anything we can slow down and limit government. I'm for limited government. I don't know how many times I can say it. We have too many regulations. We have too big of government. We're spending too much of the taxpayers' money on programs that don't make a lot of sense.
Governor, there was a report that came out this week about the State Department of Education spending taxpayer money on a DC firm to further the
You know, the superintendent of education is separately elected. And again, like I'll say it probably 100 times over the next week, I'm for limited government, and I think we should criticize all taxpayer spends, and I think we should criticize and ask questions on all programs. So you'll have to ask them. They're separately elected on how they spend their money and what their budget is, but you know, it's a fair point to ask questions. Every agency that hires, you know, not lobbyists, but hires PR firms and those kind of things, it's an honest question. Is that a good use of the taxpayer dollars? And I think a lot of agencies have a lot of different people in the communications groups, and it's a logical question. People should have to answer for that.
Kind of following up on that, the education department has lost dozens of employees the last 15 months. We've all heard stories about how some districts haven't even received basic ESSER funds. Last week they just lost their general counsel and their top accreditation person. Are you at all concerned, given this exodus of talent and experience, that they're going to be able to do their constitutionally mandated job?
You know, I don't really follow. There's 31,000 state employees, and so when people are all the time, there's a lot of attrition. There's people moving out of state, those kind of things. So I don't really track specifically, you know, resignations or people leaving different agencies. But overall, when we limit government, that's a kind of a good thing. I want to have fewer state employees than when I took over in 2019. That's a goal of mine. We're pretty much flat right now. But, you know, again, that's a separately elected, this is the way our system is set up. We have 11 different separately elected people running state government. And a lot of states don't do that. The governor appoints these different 11 separately elected people. And that's the better model, in my opinion. Running the executive branch, you have the legislative branch that writes the laws, but the executive branch in Oklahoma, we've set it up where it's really, you spread out. There's not one person in charge. And so there's some fundamental problems with that, in my opinion. But that's something I can't change. You'll have to take that up with those departments.
Have you had any conversations with your appointees to that state of education about this kind of stuff, like the spending, turnover, that kind of thing? Have you had any discussions with them?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. If I could control the boards that go on the different appointees, there'd be a lot of changes that happen. But what happens is that you still have people from Mary Fallon, probably Brad Henry's administration, on still some boards. So to answer your question, no, I have not talked to anybody specifically. But those people, when they get on there, you try to just, is my opinion, I try to put our values and Oklahoma values on the boards and try to find the very best people that have an interest and a business acumen in these positions, and then let them go do the best job they can to governance and oversee those. But I don't have any direct authority over those. They don't serve, most boards don't serve at the pleasure of the governor. Once they're there for 6, 7, 8 years, and 9 years in some cases. And you know, you just hope they do the right thing. Again, when you have 400 different boards and commissions and unelected people running state government, that's also the problem that I see. When I first took over, if you remember in 2019, I said, guys, this is a weird system. You can't hire the head coach and tell them to go fix these different areas and then not let me hire my own offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and special teams coach. And so I asked the legislature, and they gave it to me, the authority to at least hire and have the hire fire authority for 5 of the big state agencies. And we did that. Can you imagine? One of them was Department of Health. Can you imagine going through COVID? And I've thought about this now, how fortuitous it was that we got that done in 2019, because I cannot imagine going through COVID without alignment from your director of the health department. It would have just been a nightmare. You talk about fighting in the state of Oklahoma. So that was really, so we could all be on the same team and we could be pushing, because the governor is elected by all 4 million Oklahomans. People trust the governor then to put the right people in these different positions. But it would be great to overhaul a lot of these boards and commissions and align it. There's other states, Tennessee and Arkansas, and I haven't researched all of them, that literally their cabinet runs all the state agencies. So in other words, the 15 people around there, there's only 15 agencies in state government. We've got 450. It is a very populous model that was set up years ago that we should take an honest look at how we set up the function of running state government, running the 31,000 state employees and how that looks.
Governor, you have, just real quick though, I mean, I'd like to follow up on that. You have appointed all the members of the State Board of Education.
Okay.
And I know that you've had conversations with them when the Tulsa Public Schools accreditation situation was happening, right? I mean, I think you've spoken to that a little bit, that you had those concerns. So just to, have you talked with them at all about things going on in the agency lately?
Have not spoken to any of them lately on that. But you're right, when Tulsa Public Schools was closed for 355 days, I absolutely got involved and called them and said, guys, this is ridiculous. We've got to put pressure to keep our schools open, keep our kids safe. But I haven't talked to them specifically about what you were talking about losing an employee. That's just not something I'd get in the weeds on.
Thank you. The last thing is that for, the Senate resolution was published last night about 9:30, Senate Resolution 31. I don't know if you've seen it. It's the Senate positions, starting numbers, sending over to House. To the extent you've been able to watch that or gotten reports from your staff, what do you think about the process? Do you like what the Senate's doing? House members say it's a little bit delayed, but you now can read it. We can read it.
Yep.
What's your reaction?
So I applaud the Senate for being transparent, getting that out early. That's exactly what we're talking about. We want to get those numbers out. We want Oklahomans should have an opportunity, and the media should have an opportunity to report what is the spend on, how much money are they wanting to spend, what's the issues there. It's great. We're now to the starting line, so the House is going to be able to opine, and they're going to put their issues on there, and they're going to put whatever their projects are. But here's the deal. It's still too much money. We cannot, let me just for the record, we can't keep spending savings. Last year we spent one-time funds over $1 billion of our savings. I think there's a proposal to spend another $1 billion in savings and increase government spending on just base level expenses and operations and new ongoing costs. You can't say we don't have money to cut taxes, but then increase expenses, okay? So again, you know me, I am for flat budgets. I'm for limited government. I'm going to keep hammering that. We don't need to continue to spend our savings. That will put us in a bad situation when I'm gone.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.